Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Civics. And today is going to be our fifth episode of Supreme Court cases that have changed American law, American government, and American history. And we got two more cases today in this episode, and then we'll have one more episode with two more, and then we'll move on to something different. We'll be talking about elections next. So let's get going on our first case that we're going to talk about today. And that first case is Roe v. Wade. And this is one you've probably heard about before from various sources, whether it be the media or people talking about it or whatever. It's a very important case in American history because it has caused such divisive commentary over its ruling. Basically, what the case was, it was a right, or it was a case about a woman's right to have an abortion. And in the decision, the Supreme Court decided that women have the right to choose their own medical decisions. And it goes on to say basically that in every state, basically, women have the right to an abortion in a safe and effective manner, basically. And this case happened at a time when women were having abortions, but they were doing them in unsafe conditions, and people were dying of them because they were getting them in an unsafe way instead of with a doctor in a sterilized medical facility. Obviously, this case created a lot of heavy debate over whether or not that was something that we should be doing as a nation, is allowing abortion to happen in our country. And the other major thing that happened because of it is that it really injected religion and morality into our American political discourse. So, like, that was always kind of there, but it really kind of fueled this, what's considered nowadays the conservative Christian movement. This group of very vocal, very conservative Christian groups that are trying to enact policies that line up with their religious beliefs. And they're very organized, and they're very much a part of American political discourse now. So this case kind of changed the course of kind of what was important politically in our country, starting back in 1973 when the case happened. The next case we're going to talk about is the Regents of the University of California system versus Bach. And that was in 1978. And this case upholds affirmative action. So basically what was happening is college admissions departments were deciding who got into colleges, and they were using affirmative action, which was kind of the policy of making sure that the classes that they were admitting into the universities were diverse, by making sure that they were admitting an amount of people of color or black people in their universities. And so the Supreme Court basically said that race can be a factor in deciding who gets admitted into a university. However, they stopped it short, saying that they can't have like a specific quota to fulfill. So for instance, if you're the University of California, for instance, and your admissions department can't say, we want 20% of our incoming class to be black people. That's a quota. You can't do that. But if people are being admitted and you have to make a choice as a university between two different students, and one student is a person of color and one person is not, that student being a person of color can be a factor in the decision to admit that student instead of the other one. So that was a pretty important case. It changed kind of the college admissions process. And now, since then, there's been more cases that have kind of more or less changed little bits and pieces of that, nuanced those rulings. But this was the first major one that dealt with college admissions and affirmative action. So those were our two cases. We had Roe versus Wade, really big one, really big effector of history and politics in America. And then we also had Cali versus Bach, which was a case that has affected college admissions and who's being accepted into colleges, and how that's and who's allowed to be educated. So it has kind of an effect in that realm. So two pretty big cases today. Next episode we'll talk about our last two, and then we'll move on to elections. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Civics. See you next time.